practical conversation. And we have a great guest in-house, and it's just going to be a good time. I mean, this is a conversation that has long been in waiting, has been loading for quite some time. Ikeazor Akaraiwe, SAN, it's our guest, and I'd like to welcome you. Now, I'm going to, unpack his brief profile, but before then, I want to say this is from Touchstone Limited in association with Master Scale Consulting. Thank you again for joining us. My name is Tunde Ojo, and it's my privilege to be your host. And I also have the privilege of leading the Touchstone team. If you're joining us for the first time, we try to do this so that you get to know us better. Touchstone is a global idea, brand strategy, and communication consulting firm. We're in business to make our clients and their brands to be more successful in a very complicated and changing world that we have found ourselves. No thanks to COVID-19 and other issues. There is war in Ukraine and so many things in Nigeria and around the world. Business Sustainability Series is an initiative to dimension the key drivers of sustainable business growth in the world characterized by crisis, where wars are being thrown into it. We hope they don't become wars, but we just live in a very difficult world that we have found ourselves around this season in the world. We want to engage entrepreneurs, and we've been engaging them, business leaders and thought leaders, brand managers, and professionals, and from diverse backgrounds, diverse experiences to find solutions not only to survive for business, but also for businesses to thrive. Once again, thank you for joining this conversation. I want to welcome you. Again, for those who are joining us for the first time, let me quickly unpack the housekeeping and some ground rules. Please, we'll be glad if all microphones and cameras are muted during the presentation, with the exception of those of the presenter and the host. Now, there will be a Q&A session after the presentation. For questions and comments can be posted to the chat room so that we can have very seamless interaction. Why are we doing the rule of law and effective justice delivery as catalyst for economic growth? You would agree with me that this is a very timely topic, and we have a fantastic guest who will be, addressing this all-important issue, particularly in our nation, Nigeria, and also around the world. I mean, there are different sides to the war in Ukraine. Some people believe it's an invasion. Some people think it's a war. Some people think, all kinds of and different shades of opinion. Back home in Nigeria, it's like there is justice for the rich and for the poor. And it seems as if there's not enough justice to go around in Nigeria. Justice delivery in Nigeria is a challenging thing, not to talk about the basic rule of law, which is the foundation of democracy. And we are very fortunate to have this great mind, this great man, to speak to this issue this afternoon. I'd like to quickly bring a brief profile of Ikeazor Ajovi Akaraiwe, SAN, who was called to the Nigerian bar in 1985. He took the silk in 2021 and became a senior advocate of Nigeria, very prestigious. He's also a chartered mediator and conciliator, member of the Chartered Institute of Arbitrators UK, Nigerian branch, a notary public, and the principal counsel in Akaraiwe Associates, Lex Rehoboth Partners, established since 1994. Ike Akaraiwe was appointed a portfolio assessment adjunct and student mentor since 2009 in the Nigerian Law School, Agbani campus, Enugu, and a British High Commission Justice for All trainer, and has trained prosecutors of the Enugu State Ministry of Justice in prosecuting skills, 2013. He has also trained staff of the Enugu State Citizens' Rights and Mediation Center, Enugu, that's 2010. wherein he was a member of the Governing Council for 8 years up to 2015. He has been Financial Secretary, Vice Chairman, and Chairman of the Nigerian Bar Association, Enugu branch, 2001 to 2008. He has also held forth inter alia as the first Vice President of the Nigerian Bar Association, 2008 to 2010, and the Chairman, Human Rights Institute, Nigerian Bar Association, 2008 to 2010. Alternate Chair, Session on Public Interest and Development Law, SPIDL. Chief Rapporteur, Nigerian Bar Association, 2010 to 2016 till date. Communication Officer, African Regional Forum, International Bar Association, 2013, and Chairman of the INEC-appointed Anambra State Gubernatorial Election Monitoring and Observation Board, 2010. He was the first Chairman of the Institute of Chartered Mediators and Conciliators, Enugu State, and was a member of the Governing Council of the Enugu State Citizens' Rights and Mediation Center of the Ministry of Justice, Enugu, from 2007 to 2015. Akaraiwe has been Company Secretary, Legal Advisor of the Enugu State-owned Niger Gas, and is currently Company Secretary, Legal Advisor of Lift Sazu, a non-governmental entrepreneurial training organization. His practice covers commercial banking, the banking and insurance, litigation, property, aviation, and oil and gas litigation, as well as corporate solicitor practice. He's trained in mediation, conciliation, and arbitration. He's a member of the Chartered Institute of Arbitrators, UK, Nigerian branch, and the Institute of Chartered Mediators and Conciliators. He's the registered capital market operators. Ikeazor Akaraiwe is also an author of several books, including Uyena, Eagle on the Bench, Biography of Nigerian First Substantive Judge at The Hague, Analysis of the Fundamental Rights Enforcement Procedure Rules, 2009, Oputa, Socrates of the Supreme Court Law Reports, Volume 1 to 9, and the Manual on Pretrial Proceeding and Front Loading, 2012, Prosecutor's Handbook for Ministry of Justice, 2013, and others. He is the Chief Editor of the Court of Appeal Report, CAR, a monthly publication of the judgment of the Court of Appeal on Nigeria. He is a regular contributor in journals and newspaper law pages. Ikeazor Akaraiwe is the chairman of Gentleman's Club, where men are mentored in ethical values. He is married to Dr. Nkiru Nwamaka Ikeazor Akaraiwe, a consultant ophthalmologist, and together they have 6 children. Ladies and gentlemen, join me in welcoming this great mind who will be dimensioning the topic that is all important for all of us, the rule of law and effective justice delivery as catalysts for economic growth. Ikeazor Akaraiwe, SAN, learned Sikh. Congratulations, and I welcome you. We're so glad to have you to go ahead and speak to the subject of today. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Tunde Ojo.
Thank you.
As you introduced me in that long and exhaustive biography, I wondered who you were speaking about. Thank you very much for your kind words.
Pleasure.
To be frank with you,
thank you.
The rule of law and effective justice delivery as catalyst for economic growth is a bit unusual, a topic. And it's something we seldom think about. We often look at the rule of law and effective justice delivery in isolation. Seldom do we link the rule of law with economic growth. And that is what I am going to attempt to do today. So help me God. But first of all, let us start with some definitions. We need to start this conversation with definitions. Can we share the screen, please? Can I have the screen sharing activated? We have a couple of definitions to start off with. The rule of law. What is the rule of law? In a nutshell, the rule of law is a philosophy whereby everybody in society is accountable to the law. The law rules, irrespective of who you are and what you are. You are accountable to the law. That's the rule of law in a nutshell. Let's try effective justice delivery. Why I'm going through definitions is because I don't want to take anything for granted. Not all of us are lawyers. Not every member of the audience is a lawyer. So let's just go as basically as we can. I have said that.
Let me say you can share your screen now. You can move your slides. Thank you.
All right, I'm trying to without, and it's not moving. Maybe
you've been enabled.
All right, great. Great. All right, thank you. Okay, so I said earlier that the rule of law is the political philosophy that all citizens and institutions within a country, within a community, are accountable to the same laws. As Mr. Tunde Ojo introduced me, he observed that there seems to be a different law for the rich and a different for the poor. But the philosophy behind the concept rule of law is that all citizens, all institutions within a country or a community or a state are accountable to the same laws. Not one law for the rich, not another law for the poor, not one law for the Christian, another for the Muslim, not one law for the traditional worshipper, and another for the atheist. What is justice? Like I said earlier, I just want to be as simple as possible, not taking anything for granted. In a nutshell, simplest definition, justice is the philosophy behind just behavior or treatment. Treating everybody justly, behaving justly to everybody. That is justice. If you give me an advantage because I am an Igbo man, and you give a Yoruba man a disadvantage for that over the same situation, that is not justice. The treatment is not just, the behavior is not just. If you give a Muslim a certain treatment over a certain behavior, and then a Christian a different treatment over the same behavior, it's not justice. So I hope that I've been clear with that. Justice delivery reminds me of a woman giving birth, delivery of a baby, delivering a child. Justice delivery is to bring justice to birth, delivering justice, bringing justice to people, so that everybody, the man on the street, knows that he has justice. He is a participant, a receiver of justice, irrespective of his status or station in life. Effective, because we are talking of effective justice delivery. The word effective by itself speaks of success in bringing a desired or intended result. You have a secretary who second guesses you all the time. Before you ask her to do something, she's done it. You say to yourself, I have an effective secretary. So what is effective justice delivery? A justice system which brings justice to the people all the time, or almost all the time. So that the man on the street feels, I've had my day in court. I've experienced justice. Even when he loses a case, he says, I have had a good day in court. When he comes in contact with the police, even when he is reprimanded, he says, well, this system works. And I hope I'll have time to expatiate on the idea that a failure in justice delivery is part of the reason for the violence and criminality we are seeing all over the country. Maybe I should mention this very fast, that the concept of justice is that if in a society, if 12 human beings who commit a crime, if out of 12 who commit a crime, 9 face the consequence of their action, then you have an effective justice delivery system. 12 individuals commit a crime and you have a success rate of 8 or 9 being apprehended and reprimanded. But when you have a system where perhaps out of a dozen crimes or criminals, only 3 or 4 are apprehended, you have an escalation of impunity. So effective justice delivery is a justice system where 9 out of 12, 8 out of 10, there is some reprimand, some sanction for bad behavior, just to put it very simply. Of course, the word catalyst is not a law word, it's an English word, even a scientific word. A person or thing that precipitates an event. So we are talking of the law, the rule of law and effective justice delivery as a thing that has the capacity to precipitate economic growth. We look at that again. Economic growth, we all know what that stands for, an increase in the amount of goods and services produced per head of the population over a period of time. And I hope in this discussion to be able to draw a straight line, a link between the rule of law and effective justice delivery. And I don't hope to draw a straight line for academic reasons only, but hoping that in this audience, our future attorneys general, future prime ministers, governors, deputy governors, presidents, vice presidents, local government chairmen, leaders of thought, social, economic, and political leaders. You forgive me for mentioning prime minister because I am a believer in the Westminster system of government, but that's an aside. Right. To expatiate on the definitions I have just gone through, we are going to be analyzing the relationship between institutional accountability of all citizens and institutions. Within Nigeria, for example, to the same laws and institutionalize just and equal treatment of all citizens by state institution and economic growth. I repeat that. This discussion, we hope to analyze the relationship, if any, between institutional accountability of citizens and institutions to the same laws, institutionalized just and equal treatment of all citizens by the state institutions and economic growth. And I hope I shall be forgiven for referring us to the recent events where an airline in Nigeria went ahead to fly without a most distinguished royal personality, in spite of his request over the phone that the flight should be delayed. The whole story has been in the public domain. I don't need to go through it again. But the complaint by the chief aide to that most respected royal highness, and even his complaint to the Federal Airport Authority of Nigeria to sanction that airline because the airline did not delay the flight with perhaps 100 co-citizens on board in order for another citizen and his entourage to enter the flight. That reaction by the chief aide to the Emir of Kano, if the Federal Airport Authority was going to sanction the airline, then we will say that we're dealing with a failure in the rule of law. Because the rule of law is institutionalized just and equal treatment of all citizens by state institutions, irrespective of whether he is a street sweeper or is a traditional ruler of royal blood. That's the rule of law, nothing less, nothing more. The rule of law is institutionalized accountability of all citizens and institutions to the same law. So I think the reluctance or failure of that airline to comply with that instruction and the calm by FAN, Federal Airport Authority, not acting on the report so far is a victory for the rule of law. And we don't mean to denigrate or diminish or demystify institutions like the traditional rulership. Justice is like the air that we breathe. You know, nobody has ever seen the air, but we breathe air, and without air, life will end. So like the air that we breathe, justice is indispensable. Similarly, justice is something you cannot touch physically, but you can feel it if there has been justice. Unlike road infrastructure and other infrastructure, where there is road infrastructure, we say the government is doing well. When the government tars roads and builds railway, when the water is flowing. When street sweepers are sweeping the streets, we say this government is doing well. When there are new buildings going up. But justice is not like that. Justice is intangible. You don't see justice on the streets, but you perceive it with your senses. And my comparison of justice with the air that we breathe is my simple way of saying that justice is indispensable to the development of a society. Oh yes, infrastructure is equally indispensable, but justice is first among equals. First among equals. It's like the air that we breathe. Without justice, we die. We probably will not die if there's no road infrastructure. We'll just be frustrated and a bit less efficient. We probably will not die if we all have to go to the stream to fetch water. We'll probably all be a bit less efficient and maybe more unhealthy. But without justice, like the air that we breathe, we die. That is why the entire architecture of the rule of law and justice delivery is of primary importance for the development of any country. And the first place to start is not the construction of this bridge or that bridge, the construction of this road or that road. Important as they are, roads are the arteries for economic growth. Like the blood flows through arteries to keep a human being healthy. We need roads for goods and services to move. But yet, as important as the roads are, as all other infrastructure are, the number one place, the number one issue, the number one developmental item, the number one catalyst for economic growth is the rule of law and the justice delivery architecture. Let me digress to discuss a study by the World Bank Environmental Economics Department, which really is the bulk of this study this afternoon. After that, I probably will round up and take whatever questions there are. The World Bank Environmental Economics Department a couple of years ago studied to assess the relative contribution of various kinds of capital to economic development. And that study is titled, Where is the Wealth of Nations? Where is the wealth of nations? Measuring capital for the 21st century. And they began by defining natural capital as the sum of non-renewable resources. They define natural capital as oil, natural gas, coal, and mineral resources, land, cropland and pasture land, forested areas, and protected reserves. And they went on to define produced or built capital as machinery, equipment, structures, including infrastructure, which I have been speaking about, and even urban land in the course of their looking for the wealth of nations, in the course of the World Bank searching for the wealth of nations. They went through this entire study. And at the end of the study, they still felt that something was missing. They felt that if one was to add up the current value of a country's natural resources, like our oil and gas in Nigeria, and the produced or built capital of that nation, that you are not going to yet account for the level of income of that country. Using Nigeria for sundry example, the World Bank discovered that the fact that Nigeria is the 6th largest producer of crude oil in the world, the fact that Nigeria has some of the largest gas reserves, if you were to add all that to the rest of our capital, our built capital and infrastructure, Abuja is one of the evidences of infrastructural development. Lagos, whenever I go to Lagos and I stroll around the island, I'm amazed at the infrastructure. And I always have a joke that apart from the smell of the gutters in Victoria Island, that I would think I was in any Western capital in the world. That's always the joke I crack to myself. But if you were to add our natural resources with our built-up capital all over the country, every state, Port Harcourt, Enugu, Onitsha, which is one of the most infrastructurally amazing cities in West Africa. If you were to add all that, they are not going to account for that country's level of income. For example, Nigeria's level of income is small, irrespective of the amazing infrastructure you find in Lagos, Abuja, Port Harcourt, Kano, and other places. Nigeria's level of income is small. So the study is saying that it is not about your oil and gas or about your built-up capital. The study is saying that there are intangible factors which make a country actually rich, irrespective of your natural resources, irrespective of your capital, your built-up infrastructure and capital. There are intangible factors, one of which they said was trust among people in a society. Trust. So you see, this is our distrust in Nigeria, where we have institutionalized ethnic distrust. If you don't give me Igbo president, I don't trust I will be carried along. If you don't give me Yoruba president, I don't trust. If you don't give me a governor for my senatorial district, all that distrust is one of the intangible factors that condemns a people to poverty, because distrust is a name, but when we begin to act on our distrust, we may begin to sabotage our own society and destroy our own society out of distrust. But more on that later. That's not the thrust of this conversation. The second intangible factor that contributes to the wealth of nations, the World Bank study found out was an efficient justice system, efficient judicial system. And somebody's going to ask me, what do I mean by efficient judicial system? Is Nigeria's judicial system not efficient? I will answer it as we go along. And then the third one was clear property rights. Clear property rights. I think if you read the book by Nobel laureate, the Chilean economy, Hernando de Soto, why capitalism works for some and does not work for others, you find his emphasis on clear property rights. That we have land, we have houses in our villages, but our lands and houses are not registered. We don't have title deeds, so we cannot mortgage our lands and our houses. The man in the village who has a large farm cannot mortgage his farm, his land, to get bank facility to invest in his business. But he has plenty of land, so he's a poor man in spite of his land. That is the thesis in Hernando de Soto's book, Why Capitalism Works for Some and Does Not Work for Others. And then the last but not the least of the intangible factors was effective government. Let me shock you a little to say that the order in which the World Bank listed it, I think, is the order of importance. Trust among people, an efficient judicial system, clear property rights, and effective government. Government was not placed first, even though government has a role to play to bring about the rest of those intangible factors. But let us not move too far. Excuse me. An efficient judicial system is number 2 in the hierarchy of intangible factors contributing to the wealth of nations. An efficient judicial system. Note, please, that great infrastructure, great mineral resources does not make a country rich by themselves. For a country, for the people to be rich, and when we say a country is rich, it's not because you have $100 billion in your foreign reserve, but because your people are rich. The per capita income is good. You do not have a 20% rich and 80% living beneath the poverty level as we have today in Nigeria, alas. But you probably have an 80% of the people living above the poverty line. That is a rich nation. And we are told that the intangible factors that bring about such economic growth in nations are trust among the people, an efficient judicial system, clear property rights, and effective government. And I'm going to tie up the first 3. Trust among the people, to a large extent, is dependent on the rule of law and justice delivery. Clear property rights are also intrinsically linked with justice delivery, and efficient justice delivery and trust among the people. But we will get there later. All this intangible capital, these intangible factors boost productivity and results in higher total wealth. How is productivity boosted? By this intangible capital. We will get there. We will discuss that. Or maybe I should just mention right away that when you have effective government and education is available to the majority, the workforce becomes more productive and productivity is boosted. When you have a system of justice delivery, where justice is brought to the doorstep of every citizen, productivity is boosted. For example, I enter into an agreement with somebody to supply me goods. I pay the person a part of the money up front, but the person does not supply me the goods. Your guess is as good as mine. My business is going to collapse. I will not be able to pay my workers. I will not be able to make the kind of profit I should have made. And the services which my goods constitute will not be available to the housewife who wants to buy my milk or my fish or my meat or whatever. And so there's a spiral effect by the failure of the person I entered into agreement with to supply. Worse, I take the person to court, and it takes me 7 to 9 years to get judgment in my favor in the court of first instance, by which time the 500,000 naira I paid him is worth 250,000 naira because of non-effective governance, or maybe because of the deliberate economic policy of government. So it takes me 7 to 9 years to get judgment. Productivity is dehydrated and decapitated by the failure of this intangible capital called justice delivery. And I've just taken out justice delivery as an example, or effective governance as another example. The World Bank, in fact, finds that human capital and the value of institutions as measured by the rule of law constitutes the largest share of wealth in virtually all nations. Let me repeat that. Human capital, human beings, well-educated and satisfied human beings, and institutions of the rule of law. The rule of law as an institution constitutes, is the cause, is the catalyst for the largest share of wealth in virtually all nations. So when our governments, our presidential and gubernatorial candidates are talking about what they will do when they come to office, I will build more roads, I will build more bridges, more railway lines, I will wipe out unemployment, which is very important. But seldom do you ever hear them address the indispensable institution of the rule of law, which by that World Bank analysis, by that World Bank study, accounts for the largest share of wealth in any wealthy nation. If we take into account all the world's natural resources and produced capital, 80% of the world's rich nations proceed from the intangible factors. 80% of America's wealth, Australia's wealth, the wealth of New Zealand, Singapore, Germany, the United Kingdom, you name it. 80% of the wealth of the rich nations proceed from the intangible factors I have already referred to. That study also discovered that 60% of the wealth of poor nations proceed from intangible factors. 60% of the wealth of poor nations, which I think includes all but 1 or 2 countries in Africa, and 80% of the wealth of rich nations are dependent on the intangible factors of an effective justice delivery system and others. The bottom line, the summary of it all, is that rich nations are largely rich because of the skills of their populations and the quality of the institutions supporting economic activity. The skills of their institutions and the quality of the institutions supporting economic activity. I am not going to discuss the skills of our populations in Nigeria because that is not my brief. I leave that to you, my dear friends. But the quality of the institutions supporting economic activity is my brief this afternoon, because the rule of law, because we're trying to converse and discuss around the subject of the rule of law and economic growth as catalyst for economic, the rule of law and effective justice delivery, as catalysts for economic growth. So we are discussing the quality of the institution supporting economic activity. What the World Bank economists have achieved largely is to quantify the intangible wealth, the intangible value of education and social institutions. Education is important in this our discussion, and I hope I shall be able to expatiate on the relationship between education, the rule of law, and effective justice delivery. Then, as catalyst for economic growth. According to the analysis by the World Bank Environmental Economics Department, rich nations, the rule of law explains 57% of a country's intangible capital, while education accounts for 36%. So I want to ask you, in your view, citizens, Nigerians and non-Nigerians listening, in your nation, what is the rule of law index in your nation? Is Nigeria high on the rule of law? Remember how we define the rule of law as a political philosophy that all citizens and institutions are within a country or community are accountable, subject to the law. In Nigeria, will we say it is so? We say we have a high rule of law index. Education accounts for 36% of the intangible capital of nations. What is our education index, both in quantity and quality? But like I said, that is not my brief. The rule of law index was devised, and this is important, by the World Bank using several hundred individual variables, measuring the perceptions of governance drawn from 25 separate data sources constructed by 18 different organizations, including civil society groups, political and business risk rating agencies like economic intelligence units, and think tanks, etc. Interestingly, Switzerland scored 99.5% on this World Bank Global Index, on the rule of law index. Switzerland, 99.5. Fantastic. The United States of America, 91.8. In spite of the challenges America has, we all know of the George Floyd issues, the justice issues of America. America is still high on the rule of law index, beaten by only Switzerland and a couple of others. Nigeria scores a pitiful 5.8%, Burundi 4.3%, Ethiopia next door, which is at war, the war in Ethiopia going on, the civil war, scores 16.4%. Irrespective, is still very poor. The 30 wealthiest nations in the world have an average score of 90, while Africa south of the Sahara scores a dismal 28. Our challenge before us today is what can we do to stir up, increase, promote, and improve our rule of law index. Because I took the trouble to go through the World Bank study, because the rule of law index is directly related to economic growth. Let me explain this way. Practical example. Mr. Olisa Bakoba, SAN, former president of the Nigerian Bar Association, gave an example several years ago about a company from Germany which wanted to invest in Nigeria, and they did their due diligence, and the due diligence report highlighted under the rule of law and justice delivery that cases in Nigeria took an average of so number of years to get justice in the court of first instance, in the court of second instance, and in the apex court. They gave an average from state to state, every state in Nigeria, including the Federal High Court, Courts of Appeal, Supreme Court. And the company, this German company, withdrew. This German company said they were not going to invest in Nigeria. I don't know who is seeing what I am seeing here. One, that this is but one of several companies that may have, on the basis, I'm sorry, I am going faster than myself. The reason out of the due diligence report, the first reason, the major reason that German companies said they will not invest in Nigeria was not because of bad roads, was not because of the policemen, it was because of the time you spend in court to attain justice. That company knows that disputes and dispute resolutions are facts of life. Husband and wife, siblings, business partners, they are a fact of life. Without the court system, we go for jungle justice. And in fact, the increase in jungle justice, extrajudicial killings by law enforcement, and mob action in killing a suspected thief on the spot by mobs in Nigeria is actually related to the amount of confidence people have in justice delivery. And the major blow to effective justice delivery in Nigeria is the waste of time, the amount of time we waste to get justice. Can you imagine that the Judiciary Staff Union of Nigeria can go on strike? There was a year they were on strike in Rivers State for the whole year, 12 months, and the society did not collapse. They've been on strike at national levels, 3 months, 6 months, and Nigeria did not ground to a halt. Let me tell you, if the courts are shut down in the United States of America and Britain, even South Africa, for 4 weeks, the country will grind to a halt. But in Nigeria, you can shut down the courts for 12 months and life continues regardless. We in the justice delivery sector ought to be very worried. Lawyers are poorer. Lawyers are not making good money because, by my own estimates, 80% of cases don't come to court. People either settle out of court, which is a good thing, or they allow themselves to be defrauded, or they get a thug. They hire thugs, hire killers. They fight for themselves because of the delay in getting justice. The trite platitude, justice delayed is justice denied. It's a trite platitude, but true nonetheless. Justice delayed is justice denied. Whenever you delay court cases, justice is denied. I just came back from court yesterday out of jurisdiction, a matter which started in 1999, still in the High Court. I didn't start the matter as counsel, but I've been briefed to continue and conclude the matter. 1999 to 2022 is 23 years. All the original parties are dead. All the original witnesses are dead. The children of the original parties are now the parties. There are many factors in delay in trial, but I just give the example of the German company which ran away, left investing in Nigeria chiefly because cases take too long. They know that we need to go to court. We have to go to court. It's realistic. We're not looking for trouble, but it's realistic. If somebody looks for our trouble, how do we solve the problem? Now, can you imagine how many Nigerians will have been given jobs? Can you imagine how many women selling guguru and ekpa would have had their sales boosted by that company? Can you imagine the trickle-down effect of that company siting in Nigeria or not siting? Can you imagine how many unemployed graduates will have gotten jobs? Can you imagine the goods and services they provide, how it will have enriched the lives of Nigerians, even the trader in the market? And I am sure that this German company is just one of several who will not do business in Nigeria because justice delivery is not effective. Who is to blame? Let me attempt to go into that. I'm going to answer the question of who is to blame like this, with a story. Then we can begin to apportion blames, or if we like not apportion blames, let us solve the problem. In 2010, yours truly went to Vancouver in Canada for International Bar Association conference. And in the course of the conference, we got bored. You know, the rule of law component of the International Bar Association, what they call rule of law in the Western Hemisphere is not what we call rule of law. Here, I mean, it's not what we call, I'm sorry, fundamental rights. Fundamental rights in the Western Hemisphere is different from fundamental rights here in Africa. Here in Africa, we're still talking of police brutality, and in the Western Hemisphere, they're talking of gay rights and such rights. And so we were bored and went to visit the courts of Vancouver. And we went to me, the president of the NBA, Mr. Keredolu, Funke Adekoya, SAN. We all went together to the courts of Vancouver and got to the complex, 60 high courts in the complex. We entered one of the courts and sat down. There were only 2 lawyers in the court with the judge, a lady judge, doing their matter from start to finish. Then we went to see the court administrator, what we call deputy chief registrar or chief registrar, court administrator. By the way, opposite that court, the high court was the magistrate's court of about 60 magistrates' courts as well. So I asked the court administrator, these 60 courts here, they are for the entire state, the province of British Columbia? And he said, oh no, these 60 courts are for Vancouver alone. Victoria, the capital city next door, has their own 60 courts, similar sized complex. Every city has their own similar sized complex of courts. So one city, Vancouver, has 60 courts of first instance, and about the same number of magistrates courts, manned by judges and magistrates. One of the things I remember most about Vancouver is the pulsating economy. As I walked the streets of Vancouver from my hotel accommodation to the conference center every day, I felt the pulse of the economy, a pulsating economy, economic activity everywhere. So practical applicability to Nigeria, appointments of judges and magistrates. With due respect, every time we appoint 3 judges, 5 judges in a state, we are being scandalous. We are exhibiting lack of understanding of the true needs of our people. How can a state like Lagos have only about 70 high court judges? My friends who practice in Lagos, they tell me that the number of bites they are able to get at most in a year in court is 3 bites, about 2 or 3 bites. That's what they tell me. Scandalous. Where I practice in Enugu, about 24, 25 judges. Scandalous. Scandalous. We need more appointments of judges and magistrates. Not just anybody as a judge magistrate. We need to look at their practice, whether in the Ministry of Justice or in practice, and dispassionately assess their practice, look at their school results. Though I wouldn't place too much premium on that. But look at their practice and appoint people with significant experience in practice. If university lecturers, they have written books and papers, what is the turnover of their cases and the quality of their cases? What do their peers, peer review? What do their peers, what do the judges and magistrates think of the practice of such people? If you ask me, Lagos should have minimum 500 judges, minimum 1,000 magistrates. No judge should have no judge should have more than 2 cases in a day, 2. And adjournments should not be from January to June, January to May. Adjournment should be from today to tomorrow. The case comes before the judge and the judge says, today, the 2nd of April, 2022, I'm adjourning this case to the 5th day of February, 2023 for hearing. I'm adjourning to 7 days from the 5th day of February, 7 days except Saturdays and Sundays, every day for hearing. Make sure your witnesses are ready and it's adjourned. And in 5 months' time, 7 months' time, 9 months' time, you come back because the judge has other cases he wants to clear. So he adjourns you to 6 months away, 9 months away. And then when the case comes up, he hears all the witnesses in 7 days from day to day. No lawyer asks for adjournment. Any lawyer who asks for adjournment is professional misconduct, sanctionable. What if the lawyer is sick? Get another lawyer. Don't you have other lawyers in chambers? What if it's a one-man practice? Call your colleagues from other practice to assist you. That is what we need in Nigeria today. We need more appointments of judges and magistrates. It should be a travesty that any judge has 5 cases on the court list. You go to court, 23 cases. You go to the Court of Appeal, 23 cases in the Court of Appeal, and the judge sits from sun up to sundown. How can? And when you are cross-examining your witness, after 15 minutes, the judge writing longhand says round up. You have not even scratched the surface of cross-examination, but the judge is writing longhand. His hands are hurting him. Her hands are hurting her. The air conditioning is not working. The fan is blowing hot air. He says round up. And we think we have effective justice delivery. Who's going to invest in such a place? Let me tell you, because man has learned to shoot without missing. Eleke the bird has learned to fly without perching. Because we have a non-effective justice delivery system, and it's not the fault of the judges, so not their fault. It's the fault of the architecture of governmental leadership, ineffective government. The leaders don't even know when they are campaigning for office. They don't even talk about the courts. They don't talk about the rule of law. Because of our ineffective justice delivery sector, there is impunity everywhere. I do business with you, I cheat you, and I tell you, go and buy a lawyer, I'll buy a lawyer. And I pay my lawyer peanuts, knowing that the case will last 10 years. I pay my lawyer peanuts, and the lawyer is grateful. Every day the case comes up, appearance fee. Give me appearance fee, 3,000, 5,000. And the client thinks that the reason there are so many adjournments is because the lawyers don't want it to end, so they can be getting appearance fee. Let me tell you, all lawyers will be richer if the average age of cases rounded up in 12 months. Every lawyer will be richer, and society will be better, and the society will be better, and there will be less impunity. Excuse me. Every lawyer will be richer because trust, confidence in the justice delivery institutions will increase. And so people will bring in more cases, knowing that if I file a case in January, worst case scenario, it's over in 18 months. And if I go on appeal, worst case scenario, it's over in another 18 months. And if I go to the Supreme Court, worst case scenario is over in another 18 months. So in a matter of 4.5 years, a case has journeyed from the lowest court to the highest court. And time is almost up. So it will fail me to, so time fails me to even explain that everybody needs not go to the Supreme Court. Why should everybody go to the Supreme Court when you've had 2 bites? Why should you go to the Supreme Court for the Supreme Court to restate the principle of 5 ways of proving your title to land? Why should we go to court for the Supreme Court to restate principles that it has already stated before? Supreme Court should be empowered, like the American Supreme Court, to refuse to hear some cases. We have stated the principle in this area. Why do we have to restate again? So the National Assembly is saying that they want to amend the Constitution to raise the number of justices of Supreme Court to 40 is an error in understanding. America has 9 justices of the Supreme Court. We don't need 40. The present 18 or 20 is more than sufficient. So we need to appoint more, and appointing more means the infrastructure. How do you appoint more judges? You don't build more halls, more court halls. How do you appoint more judges and magistrates? You don't provide recording infrastructure, and recording infrastructure is dependent on electricity. And since we have a notoriously poor energy sector, so every court must have electricity, self-generating infrastructure, solar energy, inverters, generators. I'm sorry to draw attention to myself, but I run my practice from my own building, and I'm not connected to the national grid. I generate my own electricity with solar energy and generators and inverters. I'm not connected to the national grid. I once was. I disconnected due to personal problems with them. But the point I'm making is that if individuals can do this, the courts can do, the government can do it. Connect to the national grid, but have backup so that we can have recording, electronic recording, what do you call them now? Stenographers to record, so judges can listen and sip their glass of water. I thank God the Federal High Court is already doing that. And the Investment and Security Tribunal, they already have stenographic recorders. We need to spread this around. We need to build more courts. We need to build housing for judges. Remuneration of judges is, forgive me, scandalous is one of my favorite words. So I was going to say scandalous, but looking for another word. It's very sad. It doesn't even attract the best. Those who go to the bench are those who feel called, like the priesthood, to go into the bench. Remuneration is not good enough. Can a judge send the child to some of the high quality private universities in Nigeria based on his remuneration? And we want to deal with the issues of judicial corruption, where some people will never be corrupt, however poorly you pay them. But some people are encouraged not to be corrupt if you pay them well. And I have said that, some have said, let us tag or peg the payment of salaries of judges and magistrates to the National Assembly, I would say that at today's rate, why will a High Court judge not earn 5 million naira a month? And I think that that's still poor. And why will a Court of Appeal justice not earn 10 million a month? Supreme Court justice 15 million a month. Chief Justice 20 million a month, and it's still poor. Why not? This country can afford it. We pay humongous salaries and allowances to the people in the National Assembly. Why won't a person, to remove the burden, since culturally we build houses, to remove that burden, why won't, as soon as a person is appointed a High Court judge, why won't he be given a house of his own in any city of his choice? And when he goes to the Court of Appeal, another house, and when he goes to Supreme Court, another house. Just a few years ago, federal government started building houses for retired chief justices. The way we treat our judges is a chief indication that we don't respect the rule of law and effective justice delivery. I have so much more to say. I think my father used to say that a good speech is not only one that has initiative, but one that has finitiative. So you must know when to start, but you must know when to finish. And I have so much more to say. I'm agitated by this issue, but to summarize and to round up, we have relegated the justice sector to the background, and it's affecting the economy because people are not bringing in disputes, and there are disputes. Disputes are taking too long to resolve, and therefore the economy is affected, because when there's impunity, then there's no trust. You can't do business with trust. You commit crime. The man in the village sees the man who raped a girl. The man in the village sees the man who beat up somebody, and he is walking free. He has been granted bail, and for 15 years he's going to court. And they see him on the street and they say, oh no, there is no justice in this nation. That man who stole is on bail, and he has been walking the streets for 15 years. Every year we hear he's going to court. So people have no confidence in the justice sector. And so the investor cannot safely invest in this economy, knowing that justice delivery, by the delays therein, are basically non-existent in this nation. Lawyers are poor. If more cases came into the system, I will have more cases. We all have more cases. We will employ more juniors, because if I have 20 cases in a day, there's no way I can go around them all. I have to employ more juniors. If the judges say, if in 20 courts in a day, every judge says the matter must go on every day, all these juniors who are underemployed, many juniors don't have work doing. Many young lawyers are putting out adverts on social media, 1 room for rent. Agency fee 50,000 naira. Some of them, when you open their WhatsApp page, you see the advert there. They're selling crayfish or stuff like that. And I'm not trying to joke. But there will be more work. I can't do it also. I'll be forced to employ more people, train them, and then they will go to court and hold brief and work. More lawyers will come in, more work will come in, more income will come in. It's better for me to earn 500,000 naira and the case ends in 12 months than the case lasts 10, 15 years and I charge 2-3 million. It's better. I conclude with a story. Again, from the International Bar Association, I was there in between lectures. A tall gentleman from the country called Estonia walked up to me and introduced himself, exchanged cards with me. He said, "You're from Nigeria?" I said, "Yes." He said, "What year were you called to the bar?" 1985, I said. To make conversation, I asked him, "What year were you called?" He said, 1995. I said, "Fine." He asked me, "You have many firms in Nigeria?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "What is the size of your law firm?" He asked me. With a sense of pride, I preened my shoulders, and I said I had 12 lawyers in my firm. That was about 2010. I said, "I have 12 lawyers in my firm." And he kept ominously silent. So I primed him. I said, okay, I prompted him, "How many do you have in your firm?" He said, "Well, I have 103. Called to the bar 10 years after me, he has 103. I'll tell you why. The economy, when the economy is vibrant, more lawyers come into the system, and there's more cases come in, more lawyers, and there is income. And there's income, and the country makes economic growth. Because the institutions of the rule of law, the architecture of justice delivery, are delivering justice every day to the high and mighty, to the lowly and to the rich, equal justice for all. So you are a governor in America, you're a senator in America. After your time, you go to jail if you committed a crime. So impunity comes to an end. But in Nigeria, when you are done with government house, you go to the Senate. Thank you very much. I'll stop at this point because I know there are some questions to ask.
Thank you very much, Ikeazor Akaraiwe. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you for your insight. I feel so highly privileged for having you. This is an interesting session. Quite an I mean, we can go on and on, but because of our time. And then I want to say a big thank you for the lawyers that are here, you know, including Babatunde Ogala, SAN. And hello, can you hear me? I hope you can hear me.
I hear you.
We can hear you.
Hello, can you hear me?
We can hear you. We can hear
Hello?
you.
BK, I greet you. Babatunde Ogala is there.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Thank you, Mr. Okri of Lincoln. Thank you.
We've lost him.
Oh, we've lost Mr. Tunde Ojo.
I'm back. Can you hear me?
I don't know if
I hear you now.
Okay, you're back.
Yeah, I'm back. Thank you very much. I'm just wondering, there are very brilliant lawyers on this platform, and I would be glad if they will do us the, if they will be glad, you know, just to weigh in this very, very, very crucial. I feel pretty sad because Ike Akaraiwe, SAN, I just put his finger on some of the challenges we have as a nation. The trust deficit, a judicial system that is going nowhere. There's not enough justice to, you know, to go around, poor infrastructure, issues of, I mean, my goodness. I mean, and it's very frightening because I'm generally a hopeful person, but it's like hope is draining out for a country like ours. Now, there are so many comments and questions. Let me just quickly take that just in case we don't have a lot of time. Thank you for your presentation, Muiwalabi, and submissions. We have witnessed a system that is suffocating from massive injustice across many sectors. Estimated electricity bills, multiple taxation, differential foreign exchange regime for different players in the same economy, and many more. These are stifling economic growth and national development. When and how can this nation deliver from all of this? That's this question. This is Godwin. Is, you know, Okri, Mr. Okri, is Nigeria's economic growth hampered by a judicial system? That's the question. And he's saying, Mr. Okri is from Lincoln's Inn. He said, if the answer is yes, then how can judicial system promote economic growth? And I think part of that you have answered. Dr. Adedayo Lunati, brilliant presentation. Truly, our judicial system needs overhauling to restore confidence of society in getting justice. It's a pity that fraudulent members of the societies cash in on the delays in getting justice, while the innocent suffer. These are just comments and questions. I'll be glad if you have people, there are lawyers here, and I don't want to embarrass you, first-class brains on this platform who will be very glad if you can just, this is an issue that I hope we can and find, solutions, as we talk. Back to you, Ikeazor Akaraiwe, SAN. Thank you. Learned
Yes.
Back to you on the questions. You want to just spend a minute or two, and then if you want to raise your, anybody wants to weigh in, you can raise your hand, and we can also allow people to unmute, share.
Yes. Okay. Thank you. I think I pretty much answered the questions in the course of the discussion, but I imagine that maybe some of the gentlemen who were asking may not have been in on the discussion at the point I was discussing those issues. I mentioned specifically in answer to the question whether the economic growth is by any stretch of the imagination linked with the justice sector. Yes, the answer is yes. I wouldn't want to take too much time on that. I have just a minute, but we relied on the World Bank Economic Department, Environmental Economic Department study on wealth of nations, measuring capital for the 21st century. And the World Bank was able to come to the conclusion that the wealth of nations is partially dependent on your natural resources, your oil and gas, or your diamonds or your gold. That is only partially dependent on those things and your infrastructure. And it is majorly dependent on the rule of law in a country, effective justice delivery in a country. And they also say it's dependent on education. How skilled is your workforce? Maybe sometime in the future we will feature an educationist on that issue here, but the rule of law and effective justice delivery are catalysts for economic growth. And I took time to practically explain from the experience of the German firm, which when told the number of years approximately they can get a case decided in Nigerian courts, they decided they won't invest here. And this is just one company. When I told somebody this story, the person told me he knows 2 or 3 foreign companies which divested from Nigeria because of how long it takes to get justice in court. Because it's common sense that you are going to go to court. It's common sense. You don't want to spend 20, 30 years in court. So, so I think the major problem with our justice delivery is delays. And we need to get that right. Then, of course, the rule of law, I had defined the rule of law earlier as a political philosophy that all citizens or institutions within a country or community are accountable to the same laws. Now, in a country where the poor are jailed for stealing GSM handsets, and the man who steals 3 billion naira is given a fine of 20 million to pay, or his case takes forever. I've not heard of the discharge and acquittal of some of the judges, some of the governors who left office in 2007. Only Gary and perhaps the other man in Adamawa, Bonnie Haruna, went to jail. But we've not heard that others have been discharged and acquitted. So in a country, the rule of law does not thrive in a country where there's one law for the rich and another law for the poor. So we need to get that right, and then there'll be more investor confidence in Nigeria. More investor confidence in Nigeria. Even Nigerians who have money abroad will bring back their money and invest here when they know that there's justice, there's law and order set in the country. There's no delay in trials. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ikeazor Akaraiwe, SAN, Lanet Silk. You said that the World Bank study states that the rule of law is 80% of the wealth of the rich nation. There are countries, where the rule of law is accountable for 57% of things happening in that country, and education 36%. That makes, for my own little arithmetic, 93%. So basically, we just have some, 7% accounting for all the other things that, all the other activities in society. I mean,
yes,
we have a country where the rule of law in Nigeria is almost non-existent. Education is outsourced to the Western nation. All our children are out there at the moment. ASU is on strike. Nothing seems to be working. I mean, maybe on a pattern note. I mean, we can feel your passion, or anyone on this platform. How do we juxtapose this, knowing that come next year, this is a pre-election year, come next year is another opportunity for us to, be choosing those who are going to lead us. What kind of leaders should we be looking at as citizens?
Thank you, Tunde Ojo, for the question. I appreciate that question very much. What sort of leader should we be looking at as citizens? I would like to place a premium on education.
Okay.
Yes, this is the 21st century. This is 2022. The president of Ghana, I've met him. I met him when he was Attorney General of Ghana. He came for a Nigerian Bar Association event, and we chatted. He's a lawyer. He has a degree in economics and another in law. He's gone through the ranks, Attorney General. Education is so important. Our governors, our presidents, our senators, we need people well educated, number one. Then number two, we need people. In short, let me just go back to the presidency of a country. I think at the end of the day, a heavily centralized nation like Nigeria is very centralized. We are more unitary than federal, even though we have elements of federalism. And in a centralized country like this, whoever sits in Aso Villa must be very, very, very well educated, sophisticated, because you are dealing with over 500 ethnic groups. You're dealing with two major religions. I'm told that there is no nation in the world, apart from Nigeria, with two major religions. That is where almost half of the population adheres to one or the other. Check it out from India, that has a population of 1 billion. The Hindus are probably 800 million. So you have two major religions. You need sophisticated, urbane leaders with high education and experience in managing human beings. When you have sophisticated leaders, let me tell you, ruling Nigeria is not rocket science. When you have a leader, look at, I hope I'm not condescending to politics, but I consider Obasanjo one of the more successful leaders in Nigeria. He belonged to the whole nation. It wasn't ethnic. He wasn't ethnic. He wasn't religious. He's a Christian by religion, but he wasn't, there was no religion in the sense of nobody could perceive that he preferred a Yoruba man to an Igbo man or to a Fulani. He didn't prefer a Christian to a Muslim. That's the perception about Obasanjo started to finish. Education. Perhaps Obasanjo's major weakness, well, military background. Well, he did his best. But if you add that kind of a worldview to education and sophistication, let me tell you, things will work out. But the man I'm going to vote for in the next election must be one who talks about the rule of law. Don't tell me about a second Niger bridge, however important it is. Don't tell me about a fourth mainland bridge, however important it is. A man who talks about institutionalizing justice delivery and the rule of law is a man who knows how to get Nigeria into the 21st century.
Thank you. Thank you, Lanesi. My last question, and if nobody's weighing in, we bring this to a close, is that is it possible for the judiciary to help us. You know, can we have the judiciary that can be of help? Because the judiciary itself in Nigeria is part of the problem. You know, people tell you, or another way to look at it is that if we have the independence, proper independence of the judiciary, can that be helpful? In which we can have efficient, effective delivery of justice and the rule of law. What do you think? What we give? There is Kenny. Please, can you unmute? You have just a minute. Can you unmute so that we can take all of this together, so that Lanet Skill can just wrap up? Thank you, Kenny. Can you
My name is Kenny Oshibono.
It's a pleasure, sir.
Yes. Lanet Silk, I salute you. I just want to add to what you have said, because I know that this should be tackled in two different ways. That is, the aspects of the police impunity and the way that you report cases at the police station and they don't take it serious is one aspect where the rule of law is bastardized. But in respect of the economic issues now, I know that many of the companies, international trade agreements, they prefer to put arbitration in the agreement. And they will tell you that the courts in Nigeria have no jurisdiction, that only the international trade arbitration centers in Paris or London. So they are aware of the rule of law abuses in Nigeria. And many of them are running away from it. They're not asking us that when we prepare agreement, we should put arbitral clause stating that the Nigerian courts have no jurisdiction, and that if there is dispute in any agreement, we have to go to the international arbitrators in Paris or London. That is just what I want to add. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Barrister Shibano. I will want Mr. Godwin Okri of Lincoln Hill to weigh in, and then we start bringing. You can take the others together and start bringing to a close. This has been an interesting session.
Mr. Ajovi, thank you very much. Can you hear me?
Yeah, pretty well.
Yes, we hear you.
Well, excellent. Understand. Thank you very much for your delivery. I'm sure you're aware of the Wolf reform in England. Are you aware of that?
The Wolf report?
Yes.
No,
well, let me educate. Let me help you out. The Wolf reform was a position by all the judges coming together with one single opinion that the judiciary is the primary catalyst for economic growth. Wow. As the result of the Wolf reform, a law was passed, and they created a civil justice system whereby from when summons is issued to when you go into court, and after court, there's a time limit for that. So there was speed, there's interlocutory injunction, and there's a time for summary judgment. Let me now tell you the advantage for foreign investors and how this translates into economic growth. I will tell you. Foreign institutional investors look very closely to the function of the civil justice system. Because the contrarian view in the 19th century philosophy believed that for contracts to be enforced properly, you need a sophisticated and effective judicial system. So when Mr. A has an argument with Mr. B, he needs to know what the position is. And for him to know that, the principle of res juris, which is judicial precedence, has to be played. So your solicitor would tell you from the start, if you go to court, you would win the case because of case law. And case law cannot work if you don't have a sophisticated law report. All of these things are failing in Nigeria. And that's why foreign institutional investors are not investing here. It translates into a reduction in GDP and in economic growth. That's my summary.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Okri is one of our cherished facilitators, faculty here. He's a lawyer and a realtor. It's a pleasure. Thank you for your intervention. So
thank you, Mr. Chris. Thank you very much for that.
Can you sum up, sir?
Yes, let me just answer the question you asked. How can the courts help us? The courts are part of the problem.
Yes.
Let me quickly say that I feel sorry for judges. We have many good, hardworking judges. They are overworked. They're working in an unfriendly environment. The infrastructure is horrible. I've already gone through them. This longhand recording is outdated, and should stop. We must move into the 21st century. The pay is poor. The buildings are bad. Electricity issues. Many judges are doing their best. Honestly, I've been in practice to the glory of God for 37 years now. I should think so, about 37 years. And I've done nothing else but practice law. These people are overworked and under-remunerated, underappreciated. And we really need government to intervene along the lines we have outlined here, increasing the state I practice in primarily Enugu, no less than 100 high court judges, no less than 200 magistrates, Lagos, no less than 500 high court judges, 1,000 magistrates, good people, and we have them. They are there, they are available. But you asked a question also, that can independence of the judiciary help the judiciary? And the answer is yes. For instance, why do the chief judges have to go cap in hand to state chief executive, the governors, to ask for money to repair generators, money for new generators, in spite of the express stipulation in the Constitution that says that the judiciary is a first line charge. The paraphrase is mine, that the monies belonging to the judiciary should be handed over to the heads of courts. So the monies belonging to the judiciary should come from the federation account to the head of courts. That's what the Constitution says, but it is observed in breach. And if the heads of courts had money, then perhaps they will be responsible for electronic recording of cases. They'll be responsible for more halls, more court halls. They'll be responsible for improving the quality of infrastructure, at least up to a level. They will need to go and ask the governor for a generator. They'll buy it. They will need to ask the governor for solar energy to be put around the courts. They will fix it. They will need to ask the governor for money for internet. They will make sure that there's internet in the courts ad infinitum. So independence of the judiciary, fiscal independence especially, will go a long way to redressing these issues. Thank you very much. It's been a privilege.
Thank you very much. We have to bring this to a close. The last comment from Dr. Adebola, Mr. Adebola Onyoris, to everyone. Thank you, sir, for the opening session. Only God will help us to love and embrace justice in this nation. Thank you for your comment. I want to say a huge thank you to all the learned people on this planet, on this platform today, and the very robust discussion that we've had and the opening up of the issues by Ikeazor Akaraiwe, SAN. Thank you very much, Learned Silk. Thank you for your experience as an author of note, a lawyer of worth, and what I know about you for keeping integrity in all aspects of your dealings, and it's been a good time. We're going to call on you again.
Thank you.
Because,
thank you.
Certainly, the issues around justice delivery and economic growth and the challenges of running business in Nigeria, and even just living, just ensuring that you can go to court and get justice. It's so basic to our very, very existence. Once again, yes. I'm very, very, very grateful to my colleagues on the Touchstone and the entire team for making this possible, and all the great participants, great men and women of distinction, scholars, entrepreneurs, lawyers, learned sick like Babatunde Ogala, SAN, and so many people here, first-class brain, IT gurus, great minds, thought leaders. Thank you for making this a very robust conversation every fortnight. We are going to come your way again. Once again, this is Touchstone Business Sustainability Series. In the next 2 weeks, where we are going to be talking about another issue of note that will make business grow and thrive. Bye for now, and God bless you. Thank you for joining us
Thank
for
you.
this conversation. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
God bless.
Thank you, and God bless you. Bye for now.